This week, the midterm elections put the Republicans in charge of the U.S. Senate. We talked with CBN News senior editor John Waage and Julie Stahl about the impact these elections will have on U.S.-Israeli relations. John, Julie, thanks for joining us. Julie, there's been a lot of violence here. There's been riots. There's been terror attacks. Some people think we're on the verge of a third intifada. What do you think?
That's right, Chris. Some people think we're on the verge of it. Some say we're already in it. Others say, no, we're not going to have a third intifada at all. There are some differences between this and the previous two intifadas, armed uprisings of the Palestinians. One thing is that this one is really centered in Jerusalem. We really haven't seen attacks anywhere else in the country. One of the similarities is that the reports that we're hearing is that the people are being paid. Just like in the second intifada, there were some 40,000 terrorists, people paid to be terrorists. That, you know, if people said, hey, what does your dad do? They said, hey, my dad's a terrorist. And they really got paid to do terrorism. The similarity is that most of the Palestinians are not really in favor of this. It's really just a paid job. Yeah.
John, turning to the big news in the United States about the midterm elections, how do you think the midterm elections and the results now that the Republicans are controlling the U.S. Senate is going to affect U.S.-Israel relations?
Well, I think that it's good news basically for the government of Israel and the people of Israel that these elections worked out the way they did. I think what you're going to see, first of all, every committee chairmanship in the U.S. Senate is going to change hands now from Democrats to Republicans. What that means is several pro-Israel senators are going to come into a position where they can call hearings, they can start to open up and investigate U.S. policy in the Middle East, which most Americans believe right now is a failure, and that can't do anything but help Israel, in my view. I think that, you know, for instance, John McCain is about to become chairman of the Armed Services Committee. We'll have a new chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee who won't have to do the bidding so much of the State Department and the White House. Now, Obama is still commander-in-chief, and in that sense, he can wield a great deal of foreign policy power, but he's going to have to answer to Congress, and I would be very surprised and disappointed if Congress doesn't start opening up some hearings right away about U.S. funding of terrorism, about support for Israel's enemies at the expense of, or support for U.S. enemies at the expense of allies like Israel. And I think that there's going to be a little bit of a spotlight shined on what the administration's been doing over the past several years.
You know, later this month there's going to be a big decision about the Iran's nuclear program, negotiations going on between the P5+1. Do you think this is going to affect those negotiations?
I'm concerned that they're going to try and ramrod these negotiations through before a new Senate and Congress is allowed to take power next January. I think that it's high on the Obama administration's list to reach an agreement with Iran, and more importantly, to prevent Israel from doing anything to stop it. That sounds just unbelievable, but that would be the central foreign policy of the administration, but that seems to be exactly what it is. So unless something dramatic changes, I would see the Obama administration going forward pushing even harder to try and reach some sort of agreement with Iran before the new Congress can get its legs.
And John, there has been some speculation that the Obama administration might actually pull this diplomatic cover for Israel in the United Nations. Any likelihood of that happening?
Oh boy, that would spark a real Donnybrook in the United States, I think. We've just seen a huge statement by the American people repudiating the Obama agenda, and it would really be a reach for them to do that. I can't say they wouldn't, though, Chris. I don't know if they would actually try and do something like that. I think that the days of them being able to pull these kind of things and getting some cover from leaders in Congress is maybe about to come to an end. I pray that that's the case.
Yeah. And Julie, you did a story recently about Israeli Americans voting in the U.S. elections. What are they looking for in these elections?
Well, you know, Chris, judging from the answers I got last week, there's a lot of happy people that the Republicans have now taken back control of Congress, of the Senate and the House of Representatives. I think, you know, most people are concerned about America for their relatives' sake, but over here they're looking at the foreign policy. And until now, the Obama administration foreign policy hasn't been so good in the Middle East, not just for Israel, but for the surrounding countries. I think most people are glad that the Republicans are back in charge in Congress, and they're hoping that that will carry some weight as far as the Obama administration goes.
Okay. Well, John, Julie, thanks for joining us. It's going to be fascinating to see how this unfolds and very important for both Israel and the United States. Thanks for joining us.